The massive warship hung in orbit above the planet like a silver monument to galactic cooperation. Inside the main briefing hall, hundreds of alien soldiers stood in organized groups. Their armor gleamed under the bright lights. Some were tall and made of crystal. Others had metal bodies with glowing eyes. A few looked like walking mountains of muscle and bone. Captain stood with his unit near the back of the hall. He was average height for a human, which made him small compared to most aliens in the room. His dark hair was cut short. His uniform was plain gray with simple armor plates. Behind him stood 30 soldiers from Earth. They called themselves Ghost Battalion. Lieutenant Wu checked her data tablet. She had sharp eyes and moved with quiet confidence. "The control 12 planets now," she whispered to. "They take people as slaves. The Coalition wants them stopped." Nodded, he watched as a massive alien walked to the center stage. This was General of the species. His body was made of blue crystal that caught the light. He stood 3 meters tall. When he spoke, his voice boomed through the hall. "Warriors of the Coalition said, we face a great enemy. The warlords show no mercy. They are strong. They are brutal, but we are stronger together." The alien soldiers roared in response. The sound shook the walls. Humans stayed quiet and watched. Continued. "Each species will contribute their finest warriors. They will lead the frontal assault. Our crystal bodies cannot be broken easily. They will provide heavy firepower with their combat systems. They will serve as our shield wall with their massive strength." A smaller alien near the front spoke up. It looked like a walking insect with 6 arms. "What about the humans?" it asked. "What can they do?" Several aliens turned to look at the human group. Some made sounds that might have been laughter, heard whispers in various alien languages. His translator earpiece picked up some of the words. "So small. They look weak. Why did they send children? Their bones would break like twigs." Corporal stood behind. He was the biggest human in the unit but still smaller than most aliens present. His hands tightened into fists. He wanted to say something but raised one hand, a silent signal to stay calm. General looked at the humans. His crystal face was hard to read, but his tone was dismissive. "The humans will support operations. Supply lines, perhaps medical services. We cannot risk them in direct combat." Stepped forward. His boots made small sounds on the metal floor. "General, sir, Ghost Battalion requests assignment to operations." The hall went quiet. Then came more sounds of alien laughter. His crystal body seemed to pulse with light. "Captain, I have read Earth's file. Your planet has only been part of the Coalition for 40 years. Your species lacks the natural advantages of others. They cannot be cut. They do not tire. They can lift vehicles with their bare hands. Humans are fragile." "We're tougher than we look," said simply. A huge warrior stepped forward. He had gray skin like stone and arms as thick as tree trunks. "I mean no disrespect, human, but I could break you with one hand. How can you fight enemies I would struggle against?" Nayang, the unit medic, spoke up. She was small even for a human, but her voice was clear. "We don't fight the same way you do." "Then how do you fight?" asked. Smart Wu answered, "Fast, we adapt." Made a sound like grinding rocks. It might have been a sigh. "Very well. Humans will join the reserve forces. If the main assault succeeds quickly, you will assist with occupation duties. If it fails," he paused, "you will evacuate with the wounded." Wanted to argue more, but he knew it was pointless. "Understood, sir." The briefing continued. Showed maps of the target planet 7. It was a mining colony. They had taken it 6 months ago. They had built strong defenses, high walls, energy shields, heavy weapons, thousands of soldiers. The plan was simple. They would attack from the front. Their crystal bodies would absorb the enemy fire. They would blast holes in the walls. They would charge through and engage in close combat. Other species would support from different angles. The assault begins in 2 days, announced. Prepare yourselves. This will be a glorious battle. The aliens cheered again. The humans remained quiet. After the briefing ended, the different species separated into their groups, led his battalion to their assigned quarters. The room was small and cramped. Clearly, the ship's designers hadn't expected humans to need much space. The soldiers sat on their bunks, some checked their weapons, others reviewed the mission data. Nobody spoke for a while. Finally broke the silence. They think we're useless. Let them think that, said. It's an advantage. Wu looked up from her tablet. How is being underestimated an advantage? Smiled, it was a cold smile. Because they won't see us coming. They plan for enemies who fight like them, strong, direct, predictable. They don't plan for enemies who think differently. Na Young started organizing her medical supplies. The general said we're fragile. He's not wrong. We are softer than crystal. We can't lift vehicles. We don't have metal bodies. But we have something they don't, said. We know how to survive when everything goes wrong. Earth taught us that. The soldiers nodded. They all knew what he meant. Earth was harder than most planets in the galaxy. Gravity was stronger. Weather was more violent. Predators were more dangerous. Diseases were more deadly. Humans had survived all of it. They had become the toughest species on their planet through adaptation and stubborn refusal to give up. So what do we do? Asked. Pulled up a holographic map of 7. We wait, we watch, and when their big fancy assault runs into trouble, he pointed to a section of the map showing rough terrain behind the enemy fortress. We show them what humans do best. What's that? Asked a young private. Wu answered before could. We do the impossible, then we do it again. The soldiers grinned. They had 2 days to prepare, 2 days to study the enemy, 2 days to plan something the aliens would never expect. Outside the window, the planet 7 slowly rotated. Somewhere down there, warriors prepared their defenses. They expected crystal soldiers and metal giants. They expected conventional warfare. They had no idea what was coming. In the cramped quarters, Ghost Battalion began their real work, not polishing armor or cleaning weapons. Those things were already perfect. Instead, they studied maps. They calculated distances. They found the paths no one else would take, the dangerous routes, the impossible approaches. Because that's what humans did. When told something couldn't be done, they found a way to do it anyway. Looked at his soldiers, young and old, men and women. All of them had trained for years. All of them had survived Earth's harsh military programs. All of them had something to prove. 2 days, he said quietly. Then we show the galaxy what humanity is made of. The soldiers nodded. They would rest. They would prepare. And when the time came, they would remind everyone why Earth was special. Not because humans were the strongest, not because they were the fastest or the toughest looking, but because humans never quit, and sometimes that was the most dangerous weapon of all. The landing was rough. The transport ships shook as they entered the atmosphere of 7. Inside one of the smaller vessels, Ghost Battalion held tight to their safety harnesses. Through the windows, they could see the larger alien ships descending like metal mountains. Watched his soldiers. They looked calm, good. They would need that calmness soon. The ships landed 5 kilometers from the fortress. The rear ramps opened and troops poured out. The crystal warriors marched in perfect formation. Their bodies reflected the orange light of 7's sun. The combat machines rolled forward on metal treads. The giants carried massive weapons that looked like small cannons. The humans walked out last. They carried standard rifles and basic armor. Next to the aliens, they looked tiny. General stood near a mobile command center. He was reviewing tactical displays. When he saw approach, he barely looked up. Captain, your unit will remain at the landing zone. Protect the medical station and supply depot. Sir, we can. That is an order. His crystal face showed no emotion. The assault begins in 1 hour. We will crush the quickly. Your services will not be needed. Saluted and walked away. Behind him, Wu looked angry. He's making a mistake. Yes, agreed. Let's be ready when he realizes it. The human unit set up their position near the medical tents, but had sent 2 soldiers ahead before the landing. Sergeant and Private Sora were reconnaissance specialists. They were already in the field, watching. 1 hour later, the assault began. The warriors charged across the open ground. Energy weapons fired from the fortress walls. Blue beams hit the crystal soldiers. Some beams bounced off. Others cracked the crystal bodies. They kept moving forward. Behind them, the machines opened fire. Explosions bloomed along the fortress walls. The defenders fired back with heavy cannons. Watched through binoculars. The battle was loud and bright. It looked impressive, but something was wrong. Wu saw it too. They're not making progress. They have overlapping fields of fire. Every approach is covered. The assault continued for 3 hours. The losses were heavy. Their crystal bodies could take damage, but even crystal breaks eventually. The machines pushed forward but got stuck in kill zones. They couldn't get close enough to use their strength. Then General's face appeared on all the communication screens. He looked frustrated. All units halt advance, regroup at the rally point. The alien forces pulled back. They had lost many warriors. The fortress walls were barely damaged. They had won the first engagement. In the command center, studied his maps. Other alien commanders argued about strategy, entered and waited to be noticed. "What do you want, human?" asked tiredly. "Permission to attempt an alternative approach, sir." "There is no alternative. The fortress is too strong. We need more ships, more warriors. This will take days, perhaps weeks." Stepped closer to the map table. "Sir, your assault was direct. They expected that. They prepared for it, but there's another way." A commander laughed. "What can your tiny unit do that our combined forces could not?" Pointed to the map. Behind the fortress was rough terrain, swamps, rocky hills, areas marked with red symbols indicating danger. "We go around through here." Looked at the map. That region has toxic swamps. The radiation levels are dangerous. The terrain is impassable. No army can cross it. "You're right," said. "No army can, but a small team can." "Impossible. The swamps would kill you." "Maybe, but let us try. If we fail, you lose 30 soldiers. If we succeed, we open the back door to the fortress." Looked at for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. "You have 6 hours. If you're not successful by then, I'm calling you back." Saluted. "We'll need 3. Ghost Battalion moved out 30 minutes later. They traveled light, extra water, radiation pills, rope and climbing gear. Their weapons were clean and ready. The swamp started 2 kilometers from the fortress. The ground became soft. Water pooled in dark puddles. Strange plants grew thick and twisted. The air smelled like rot and chemicals. Wu checked her radiation meter. "Levels are high. We'll need to take pills every hour." "Everyone take one now," ordered. The soldiers swallowed small white pills. They would help their bodies handle the radiation. Not completely, but enough for a few hours. They moved into the swamp. The water was waist deep in places. It was warm and thick. Things moved under the surface. The soldiers didn't think about what those things might be. They just kept walking. Carried the heavy weapons. Even in the swamp, he didn't slow down. "How do we know this leads to the fortress?" Scouted it, said. "He's waiting for us on the other side." They walked for 2 hours. The swamp tried to stop them. The water got deeper. The plants grew thicker. The ground became mud that sucked at their boots. But humans were persistent hunters. They were built to keep moving no matter what. Nayang helped soldiers who stumbled. She checked everyone for injuries. A few had cuts from sharp plants. One soldier's skin was turning red from the chemicals in the water. She gave out medicine and kept them moving. Finally, they reached solid ground. Rocky hills rose ahead, and waiting there was Sergeant. "About time," he said with a small smile. "The fortress is just over that ridge. I've been watching their patrols." "Where's Sora?" Wu asked. Pointed up. On a hill in the distance, barely visible, a figure lay on the rocks. Private Sora was in position with her sniper rifle. "She's been eliminating sentries for the past hour," reported. 17 so far, they haven't noticed yet. Looked impressed. Range 2 kilometers average. She's making impossible shots look easy. The battalion climbed the rocky hills. Their muscles burned. Their lungs worked hard in the thin air, but they didn't stop. Humans were built for endurance. They could keep going long after other species would collapse. From the top of the ridge, they could see the back of the fortress. The walls were lower here, fewer guards. They had concentrated their defenses at the front, where the main assault had come from. Used hand signals, the soldiers spread out. They moved like shadows. Years of training made them silent and careful. Nayung set up a small medical station behind cover. "I'm ready for casualties." "Let's try not to give you any," said. Sora's voice came through the communication device. "All sentries on the east wall are down. You have a clear approach for the next 3 minutes." "Move," ordered. The humans ran, not fast like sprinters, steady like marathon runners. They covered ground efficiently. They reached the wall and pressed against it. Pulled out climbing gear. Within 60 seconds they had ropes going up the wall. The soldiers climbed quickly and quietly. One by one, they dropped into the fortress courtyard. Soldiers were there, but they were all facing the front walls. They expected attacks from that direction. Ghost Battalion moved through the fortress like ghosts. That's why they had the name. They cleared rooms silently. They disabled communications quietly. They worked as one unit with perfect coordination. A guard finally spotted them. He raised his weapon and opened his mouth to shout. Sora's bullet hit him from 2 kilometers away. He fell without making a sound. Led half the unit to the main gate controls. Wu took the other half to the power generators. They reached their targets at the same time. "Ready?" asked through the radio. "Ready," Wu confirmed. "Execute." Explosions rocked the fortress. The main gates blew open. The power generators went dark. Alarms started blaring, but it was too late. Spoke into his communicator. "General, the back door is open. The fortress is vulnerable. Send in your forces." There was silence on the other end. Then's voice came through, filled with surprise. "How? You've been gone only 3 hours." "We told you we'd need 3, replied. The alien forces attacked again. This time they met no resistance at the gates. The power was down. The defenses were offline. They were confused and disorganized. Ghost Battalion fought their way to the fortress command center. The commander there looked at them in shock. He was twice the size of any human, with thick armor and powerful weapons. But size didn't matter when you were surrounded by 30 rifles. "Surrender," said simply. The commander dropped his weapon. 6 hours after the humans entered the swamp, the fortress was secure. The alien forces stood in the courtyard looking confused. They had expected days of fighting. Instead, it was over in one night. General found in the command center. The captain was studying maps of other positions. "I underestimated you," said quietly. "Yes, sir, you did." "How did you do it? The swamp should have been impossible." Looked at his soldiers. They were tired and dirty. Their uniforms were stained with swamp water and mud, but they were alive and victorious. "On Earth," explained, "we have a saying, the difficult we do immediately. The impossible takes a little longer. You saw the swamp and the radiation and the terrain and decided it was impossible. We saw it and decided it was just difficult." His crystal face seemed to shine differently. Maybe it was respect. "I would like to learn more about human tactics," he said. Smiled. "Stick around, General. We're just getting started. The victory at 7 changed things. General requested that humans be included in all planning sessions. Other alien commanders started asking questions about Earth and its soldiers, but there was still doubt in their eyes. One victory could be luck. Colonel Jin arrived from Earth 3 days later. He was older than most soldiers, with gray in his hair. He moved with the confidence of someone who had fought many battles. He brought with him a civilian scientist named Dr. Mi-sun. Met them at the landing pad. "Sir, welcome to the task force." Jin shook his hand. "I heard about your swamp crossing. Well done, but now we have bigger problems." In the command center, intelligence officers displayed new information. An analyst explained the situation. "We captured enemy communications. They are planning a trap. They're retreating from 3 planets. They want us to follow. Then they'll surround us with their main fleet." General looked worried. His crystal body seemed darker than usual. "How many ships do they have?" "At least 500, the analyst said. "Maybe more. If we follow them, we'll be destroyed." And Commander spoke up. His mechanical voice was calm. "We should withdraw, regroup, request more coalition forces." "That will take months," said. "By then, they will have enslaved millions more." Jin stepped forward. "General, may I speak?" Nodded. "Colonel, you have experience with the—" "No, sir, but I have experience with traps. They think they understand how we fight. They expect us to follow their retreat. They expect conventional tactics. We need to do what they don't expect." "And what is that?" "We need to make them afraid." An officer made a sound like grinding glass. "They are warriors. They don't feel fear." Dr. Mi-sun spoke for the first time. She was small and quiet, but her voice was clear. "Everything feels fear. It's basic biology. They just haven't met anything that scares them yet." Looked interested. "Explain." Mi-sun pulled up images on the main display. Pictures of Earth appeared. Jungles, deserts, oceans, mountains. "This is Earth. We call it home. The rest of the galaxy calls it something else." The alien commanders leaned closer to look. "Earth's gravity is 1.3 times standard galactic average," Mi-sun continued. "This means humans are much stronger than we look. Our bones are denser. Our muscles work harder. What feels normal to us would crush many species." She changed the images. Now they showed Earth's animals: lions, bears, crocodiles, sharks. Earth has thousands of predator species. Humans are not the strongest or fastest, but we survived by being smarter and more stubborn than anything else. A commander looked skeptical. "This is interesting history, Doctor, but how does it help us now?" Mi-sun smiled. "Because humans evolved to be persistent hunters. We can run for hours, days even. We can survive injuries that would kill other species. We can adapt to almost any environment, and most importantly—" She paused for effect. "We don't know when to quit." She pulled up medical scans. "Human bodies produce adrenaline when threatened. It makes us stronger and faster. We can ignore pain. We can keep fighting with broken bones. We can survive blood loss that would stop other species. Earth made us into survivors." Jin took over. "They have never fought an enemy like us. They fight for conquest, for resources, for glory. But humans fight for something more important. We fight for each other. We fight to protect. And we don't stop until we win or we die." Was quiet for a moment. "You want to use human psychology as a weapon." "Exactly," Jin said. "We make them understand what humans are, what we're capable of. We make them fear the idea of fighting us." "How?" "We send a message. We show them what happens when you trap a human unit." Meanwhile, on a command ship, Commander reviewed the coalition movements. He was a massive warrior with dark red skin and sharp teeth. Scars covered his arms from many battles. He had never lost a fight. "The coalition is following our retreat," his tactical officer reported. "They're taking the bait." Smiled, good, soon we'll surround them. This war will end quickly. Commander, there's something else. We captured 3 coalition scouts, 2 machines and 1 human. A human was curious. I've heard about these creatures, small and weak. Bring me the human, I want to see what they know. They brought Corporal into the interrogation room. He was chained to a metal chair. His face was bruised. His uniform was torn, but his eyes were clear and alert. Look down at him. You are human. That's right. You're so small, how do you fight? Smiled, it wasn't a friendly smile. You'll find out soon enough. Hit him hard, the force would have killed most species. His head snapped back. Blood ran from his mouth, but he didn't scream. Tell me about coalition plans, demanded. No. Hit him again and again. He used methods that had broken other species quickly. Electric shocks, pressure points, chemical injections that caused terrible pain. Endured it all, his body was damaged, his ribs were broken, his skin was burned. But he didn't talk, he didn't beg, he just stared at with defiant eyes. Why won't you break? Asked, frustrated. Laughed, it hurt to laugh, but he did it anyway. Because I'm human, we're born broken. Earth breaks us every day. You think you're tough. I grew up in a world that tried to kill me from birth. Strong gravity, poisonous animals, diseases, storms, earthquakes. Earth doesn't care if you're strong or weak. It just keeps hitting you, and we keep getting back up. Was disturbed by this answer. He had never met anyone like this human. Lock him with the other prisoners, ordered. We'll transfer them all tomorrow. That night was thrown into a cell with the 2 prisoners. The mechanical beings looked at his injuries. You should be dead, one of them said. How are you still conscious? Practice, replied. He studied the cell. The walls were strong. The door was locked. Guards were outside, but there was a ventilation grate. Small, too small for the machines, maybe too small for most species. But humans could squeeze through tight spaces. Humans were flexible. Waited until the guards changed shifts. 3 in the morning when most biological species were tired. He pulled the grate off quietly. His broken ribs screamed with pain. He ignored them. He squeezed into the ventilation shaft. It was barely wide enough. His shoulders scraped the sides. Every movement hurt. He didn't care. He crawled through the ducts for hours. His body was failing. He was losing blood. His vision was blurry, but he kept moving because that's what humans did. He found an exit near the ship's landing bay. He stole a small shuttle. The guards tried to stop him. He fought them with broken ribs and burned skin. He won because he refused to lose. The shuttle launched. Fighters chased him. He flew into an asteroid field. The fighters followed. The asteroids were dense and dangerous. The fighters couldn't navigate it. Could because humans were adaptable. He flew through impossible gaps. He used the asteroids as cover. He escaped. 3 days later, he crashed the shuttle near the coalition base. The ship was on fire. The hull was breached. By all logic, the pilot should be dead. And Nuyung ran to the crash site. They pulled from the wreckage. He was barely alive. His body was broken in a dozen places. He had survived in space with minimal supplies. He had flown for 3 days without sleep. He had crossed hostile territory alone. Get him to medical, ordered. Nuyung worked fast. He needs surgery immediately. Multiple broken bones, internal bleeding, severe burns. He should be dead. But he's not, said. No, he's not. General came to see in the medical bay. The human was unconscious, covered in bandages and attached to many machines. Your soldier escaped from Commander, said quietly. He was captured, tortured, imprisoned, and still he escaped. How? Looked at his sleeping friend. Because he's human. We don't know how to give up. Earth taught us that. When you're from you learn that survival isn't about being the strongest. It's about refusing to quit. Dr. Mi-sun was checking medical readings. His body is healing faster than expected. Human healing factors are remarkable. Give him 2 weeks and he'll be ready to fight again. His crystal body seemed to pulse with light. I'm beginning to understand. Earth made you different, not weaker, just different. That's right, said. And now they are about to learn what that difference means. Jin entered the medical bay. Colonel, what are your orders? Jin looked at the sleeping, then at the gathered soldiers. We send a message to the. We show them what happens when you hurt a human. We show them why Earth is feared. How asked? Jin smiled. It was not a kind smile. We spring their trap, but we don't fall into it. We turn it around. We make them the prey. Word spread through the coalition forces. The human soldier had escaped from the. He had survived torture. He had crossed hostile space alone. He had refused to break. Alien soldiers started looking at humans differently. These small, fragile-looking creatures from were tougher than they seemed. And Commander on his command ship felt something new, something his warrior culture didn't acknowledge. He felt the first touch of fear. The coalition fleet moved into the trap exactly as expected. 300 ships entered the system, following the retreating enemy forces. It looked like they were walking into disaster. But Colonel Jin had a plan. Lieutenant Bin sat in the communications center of the human ship. She was young, with sharp intelligence and a background in psychological operations. Around her, screens showed data streams and communication channels. Are the broadcasts ready? Jin asked. Yes, sir, Bin replied. We've compiled footage from Earth's military history, wars, survival situations, extreme training, everything that shows what humans can endure. And the message? Written and ready. It'll broadcast on all military frequencies. Jin nodded. Wait for my signal. On the bridge, watched the tactical display. The fleet was moving to surround them. 500 ships against 300. The trap was closing. All human units prepare for Berserker Protocol, Jin ordered. General looked confused. What is Berserker Protocol? Psychological warfare, Jin explained. We're going to show them something they've never seen before, humans who refuse to die. The fleet attacked. Energy weapons lit up space. Missiles streaked between ships. The battle was massive and violent. Coalition ships took damage. Some exploded, others lost power, but the human ships kept fighting. Even when damaged, they didn't retreat. Bin began the broadcast. Every ship received the same message. Images flooded their screens, videos from Earth's history, soldiers fighting in impossible conditions, humans surviving in deserts without water, climbing mountains without oxygen, fighting battles while wounded, never surrendering, never stopping. And with the images came words in the language. You have made a mistake. You thought humans were weak. You thought we would break easily. You were wrong. We come from a planet that tried to kill us every day. We survived predators. We survived diseases. We survived gravity that would crush you. We survived because we don't know how to quit. And now you will learn what it means to fight an enemy that cannot be stopped. On the command ship watched the broadcast. His crew watched it too. They saw humans doing impossible things, running for days without rest, fighting with broken bones, surviving wounds that should be fatal. Turn it off, ordered. But the broadcast continued on every channel. It couldn't be blocked. In space, the human ships were surrounded. A battleship fired directly at a human destroyer. The shot punched through the hull. The ship lost atmosphere. Systems went dark. But it didn't stop fighting. The crew worked in emergency suits. They manually aimed weapons. They fired back while their ship was dying. One human ship took 60 direct hits before it finally exploded. And even then, its crew launched every remaining missile before the end. An officer on ship was stunned. They should have retreated. The ship was lost. Why did they keep fighting? Because they're human, said quietly. He was beginning to understand. On Planet 4, Ghost Battalion had landed with a special mission that had a major base there. Orders were simple: disrupt enemy operations, cause chaos, make them worried about more than just the space battle. Private Ho was a demolitions expert. He was quiet and careful, with an artist's touch for explosives. He looked at the supply depot and smiled. "That building holds ammunition and fuel," he said to Wu. "If it goes up, the explosion will be visible from orbit." "How long do you need?" she asked. "Give me 30 minutes. The Ghost Battalion created a distraction. They attacked the base from 3 sides. They responded with overwhelming force. Hundreds of soldiers poured out to defend. This left the supply depot lightly guarded. Ho moved through the shadows. He placed charges at key structural points. He wired them together with careful precision. Each bomb was positioned for maximum effect. A patrol spotted him, 20 soldiers against 1 human. They thought it would be easy. Ho fought them in a narrow corridor. He used the tight space to his advantage. They couldn't use their numbers. They came at him 1 or 2 at a time. He shot the first, stabbed the second, used his rifle like a club on the third. The fight lasted 40 minutes. Ho took hits. His armor was cracked. He was bleeding, but he held the corridor. 20 soldiers lay dead or wounded. Ho stood over them, breathing hard but still standing. "Charges are set," he reported calmly. "Detonating in 60 seconds. Suggest you move to safe distance." The Ghost Battalion retreated. The explosion was massive. The ammunition and fuel went up together. The blast destroyed half the base. The fireball was indeed visible from orbit. They sent reinforcements, 200 fresh soldiers to hunt down the humans. They found Ghost Battalion defending a narrow pass between 2 hills. The battle should have lasted 10 minutes. The humans were outnumbered 6 to 1. They should have been overrun quickly. But humans didn't fight like other species. Wu coordinated the defense. She positioned soldiers she rotated firing positions. She turned the terrain into a weapon. They had numbers. The humans had tactics. Private Sora found a sniper position on a cliff. From there, she could see the entire battlefield. Her rifle fired again and again. Each shot dropped an officer. Without leaders, the enemy soldiers became confused. The battle lasted 4 hours. They kept attacking. The humans kept fighting. Soldiers were wounded but stayed in position. Nayang ran between fighting positions, treating injuries under fire. She pulled wounded soldiers to safety while bullets flew past her head. A grenade landed near her. She grabbed a wounded soldier and rolled behind cover. The explosion threw rocks and metal everywhere. When the smoke cleared, Nayang was bleeding from a dozen small cuts. She ignored them and kept working. "I'm fine," she said when someone asked. "Just scratches, keep fighting." Fought at the front line. A massive warrior charged him. The alien was twice his size with armor like a tank. They fought hand to hand. They was stronger, but was faster and smarter. He dodged powerful blows. He struck at weak points. He tired the bigger warrior out. Humans were persistent hunters. They could fight for hours. Most species couldn't. Finally, the attack broke. They had lost more than half their force. The humans had suffered 60% casualties but still held their position. The surviving retreated in confusion. In space, the battle was reaching its peak. Coalition ships were damaged. Many were destroyed, but they fought with a ferocity that shocked them. A human cruiser was surrounded by 5 enemy ships. It was losing atmosphere. Half its weapons were offline. The captain was dead. The first officer was wounded. Lieutenant Bin had transferred to that ship to broadcast her messages. Now she found herself in command. "All hands," she said over the ship's communication. "We're not done yet. Target the nearest enemy ship. Fire everything we have." "Sir, we're venting atmosphere. The hull is breached in 12 places. We should evacuate." "Did I say evacuate?" Bin's voice was hard. "I said fire everything. This ship doesn't die until I say it dies." The crew obeyed. They fired damaged weapons. They redirected power from life support to shields. They flew the dying ship like a weapon. The cruiser rammed into a battleship. The collision destroyed both vessels. But before the human ship exploded, Ben broadcast one final message. This is what humans do. We don't surrender, we don't retreat. We fight until the end, and we take you with us. She and her crew evacuated at the last second. Their escape pods scattered as the ship exploded. Most were picked up by friendly forces. On the command ship, watched his tactical display. The battle wasn't going as planned. Yes, they were winning in terms of numbers. They had destroyed more coalition ships, but the victory felt wrong. The humans weren't retreating. Even when their ships were dying, they kept fighting. Even when surrounded, they attacked. Their casualties were terrible, but they didn't seem to care. Had fought many species. All of them broke eventually. When losses became too high, they retreated to save themselves. That was logical. That was survival. But humans didn't follow this logic. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the humans have suffered massive casualties, but their remaining ships are fighting harder than ever. They're targeting our command vessels specifically. They don't seem to care about tactical withdrawal." Watched a human destroyer. It was on fire. Half its hull was gone, but it was still shooting, still moving, still fighting. "Why won't they stop?" asked quietly. A captured coalition officer was brought to the bridge. His crystal body cracked from battle damage. "You fought alongside the humans," said. "Explain them to me." The officer looked at the displays showing human ships fighting to the last. "They're from a... Do you know what that means?" "Their planet is dangerous, so what?" "No, you don't understand. Their planet tried to kill them every single day. For millions of years, predators, diseases, natural disasters, gravity that would break most species. And humans survived all of it, not by being strong, by refusing to quit. They can't quit, it's not in them. Earth broke that ability out of them." Felt something cold in his chest. "They're insane." "No," they said. "They're human, there's a difference." On ship, Jin watched the battle reports. Human losses were severe, but morale was cracking. "Sir," an officer reported, "communications are showing panic. Their ships are receiving the broadcasts. They're seeing what humans can endure. Some ships are requesting permission to withdraw." Jin smiled grimly. "The plan is working. They came here to destroy us with numbers, but they didn't expect an enemy that fights like us. Send the signal. All units press the attack." The coalition fleet surged forward. The alien ships had learned from the humans. They fought with new determination. The stopped retreating when damaged. The pushed forward despite losses. The fought with wild fury. They had never faced an enemy like this. An enemy that wouldn't break. An enemy that got more dangerous when cornered. Watched his perfect trap fall apart. His ships were withdrawing without orders. His soldiers were afraid. Afraid of small, fragile humans from a... He gave the order he never thought he'd give. "All ships retreat, abandon the system." The fleet fled. The coalition had won. But the victory came at terrible cost. Human casualties were enormous, ships destroyed, soldiers dead or wounded. Walked through the medical bay. It was full of wounded from every species, but most were human. They had paid the highest price. Was there, recovered enough to help. He was bandaging a young soldier's arm. "Was it worth it?" the young soldier asked quietly. Looked at him. "We won, they are afraid now. Yes, it was worth it." General found Jin in the command center. "Your plan worked," said, "but the cost." "War always has a cost," Jin replied. "We just showed the galaxy that humans will pay any price to protect others. That makes us dangerous. That makes them afraid. And fear is a weapon too." Looked at the casualty reports. "I understand now why Earth is special. Not because humans are strong, because you don't know how to stop." "That's right," Jin said. "Earth taught us well." 3 weeks after the battle, the coalition fleet regrouped. Ships were repaired, wounded soldiers recovered, the dead were honored, and plans were made for the final assault. The home fortress was on Planet Prime. It was the heart of their military power, massive walls, thousands of soldiers, weapons that could destroy ships in orbit, taking it would end the war. General called a meeting of all unit commanders. The room was full of officers from every coalition species, but now the human officers sat at the front table, not in the back, not on the side, at the center. "The fortress is impenetrable," a general said, looking at the tactical displays. "We'd need 10 times our current forces." "Then we find another way," Jin said calmly. Nodded. "Colonel, what do you propose?" "We've spent weeks fighting, though. We've learned their tactics, their psychology. They're warriors who value strength and direct combat. They expect enemies to fight the same way." "So we don't," added. "We fight like humans." And Commander made a mechanical sound of interest. "You have a plan." Jin pulled up new images. "We don't attack the fortress, we make them come to us. But first we teach your forces how humans fight, how we think, how we win when we're outnumbered." For the next 2 weeks, human officers trained coalition soldiers, taught small unit tactics. Wu taught adaptability and creative thinking. Fully recovered, taught endurance fighting. Nayang taught battlefield medicine that kept soldiers fighting despite injuries. The alien soldiers learned quickly. They discovered that fighting like humans meant thinking differently. It meant using terrain as a weapon. It meant turning disadvantages into advantages. It meant never accepting that something was impossible. A young warrior trained with Private Sora. He was frustrated. "I can't shoot like you," he said. "Your accuracy is impossible." Sora smiled. "It's not about being perfect, it's about being patient. Humans are persistence hunters. We don't give up on a target, we wait, we adjust, we try again. Eventually we succeed." She showed him how to breathe, how to calm his mind, how to take his time, the tried again. His shot was better. "See," Sora said, "you're thinking like a human now." Meanwhile, Jin met with and other senior commanders. "We're ready," the colonel reported. "Your forces have learned human tactics, now for the final phase." "What do you need?" asked. "I need you to trust us completely. What we're about to do will look insane. You'll want to pull us back. You'll think we're going to fail, but you have to trust us." Looked at the human colonel. 3 months ago he had dismissed humans as weak. Now he knew better. "I trust you," said simply. The plan began with a small force landing on Prime. Just 50 soldiers, half human, half mixed coalition forces. They landed far from the fortress in rough terrain. Commander watched from his command center. "A raid?" he asked his officers. "Only 50 soldiers." "Yes, Commander. They seem to be attacking our supply lines." Smiled. "Send 200 soldiers, crush them." The 200 soldiers found the coalition force in a mountain pass. The fighting was brutal, but the coalition forces retreated slowly, drawing the deeper into the mountains. Sent more soldiers, 400 this time. The pattern repeated. Small coalition forces attacked, forces responded. The coalition retreated, always drawing the further from their fortress. "What are they doing?" the tactical officer asked. "They're trying to bleed us," said. "But we have thousands of soldiers. We can afford the losses." He didn't understand yet. This was human thinking: make the enemy chase you, tire them out, spread them thin, then strike where they're weak. After a week, had sent 5,000 soldiers into the mountains chasing coalition raiders. His fortress garrison was reduced by half. That's when the main coalition fleet arrived. 300 ships dropped from orbit, drop pods launched by the thousands. The real assault had begun. But it wasn't a frontal assault. The coalition had learned from the humans. They attacked from multiple directions. They used terrain. They targeted weak points. They adapted when plans failed. Led Ghost Battalion in a daring attack. They landed on top of the fortress walls using drop pods. Defenders shot down many pods, but enough landed. The humans and their alien allies fought on the walls. Close quarters combat, brutal and fast. They were bigger and stronger, but the coalition soldiers fought with human tactics now. Lieutenant Wu coordinated 3 different units at once. She adjusted plans in real time. When one approach failed, she tried another. When blocked, she found a new route. This was human adaptability. Ho found the fortress shield generators. They were deep underground, heavily guarded. He took a team of mixed-species soldiers. "The corridor is narrow," a warrior said. "I can't fight well in tight spaces." "Then fight like a human," Ho replied. "Use the walls, use the ceiling. Make the space work for you, not against you." They fought their way to the generators. The battle was hard. Ho was wounded. His team took casualties, but they reached the target. Ho placed his charges with expert care. "Shields will be down in 5 minutes," he reported. His voice was calm even though he was bleeding. In the fortress command center, realized his mistake. The raids in the mountains were a distraction. The real attack was here now, and his best soldiers were miles away chasing ghosts. "Recall all units," he ordered. "Get them back to the fortress." But it was too late. The coalition had broken through in 3 places. Human-trained forces were inside his walls. They fought with determination he'd never seen in other species. Saw a squad of humans fighting in a courtyard. They were outnumbered 4-1. Half were wounded, but they held their position. They covered each other. They refused to retreat. One human soldier was surrounded by 5. She was hit multiple times. She should have fallen. Instead, she kept fighting. She took down 2 before finally collapsing. A medic ran through enemy fire to reach her. Had seen many brave warriors, but this was different. This was something beyond bravery. This was refusal to accept defeat. General led the main assault force. His crystal body was cracked and damaged, but he pushed forward. He had learned from the humans. Pain could be ignored. Damage could be endured. The mission was what mattered. "All units press forward," he commanded. "Show them what the coalition has learned." The alien soldiers fought with new tactics. Warriors used cover and movement instead of standing and absorbing fire. Machines adjusted their programming on the fly to handle unexpected situations. Warriors learned to use their strength efficiently instead of relying on it completely. They were fighting like humans now, smart, adaptive, stubborn. The fortress shields went down. Coalition ships in orbit opened fire. Precise strikes hit command centers and weapons batteries. The fortress was falling apart. His team reached the main command center. Was there with his elite guard, 20 of the best warriors. The fight was desperate. Charged the guards with raw fury. Sora provided covering fire with impossible accuracy. Nayung kept wounded soldiers in the fight. Wu coordinated movement like a chess master. And faced. The commander was massive. He had 100s of personal combats. He had never been defeated. But he had never fought a human before. Was bigger, stronger, and had better armor. He attacked with crushing power. His first strike would have killed most species. Dodged, he was smaller and faster. He had been fighting for 19 hours straight without stimulants or drugs, just human endurance, just stubborn refusal to stop. Swung again, blocked with his rifle. The weapon broke, he didn't care. He used the broken pieces as weapons. They fought for 10 minutes, landed hits. Armor cracked, his ribs broke. He was bleeding, but he didn't slow down. Humans were persistence hunters. They could ignore pain. They could keep moving when their bodies said stop. Earth had taught them this. Grew tired. His swings became slower. His breathing was heavy. He had never fought an enemy who didn't tire, who didn't slow down, who didn't quit. His final strike was simple, not fancy, not powerful, just precise and timed perfectly. Fell. The commander looked up at the human standing over him. Blood ran down's face. He swayed on his feet. He should have collapsed minutes ago, but he was still standing. "Why won't you fall?" asked. Smiled through bloody teeth. "Because I'm from Earth, we don't know how to." The fortress fell within the hour. Forces surrendered. They cited demons in human skin as their reason. They said humans didn't fight fair. They said humans didn't follow the rules of warfare. They were right. Humans didn't fight like anyone else. They fought to win. After the battle was in the medical bay again. Most of Ghost Battalion was there, wounded but alive, victorious but exhausted. General visited them. His crystal body was heavily damaged, but he stood tall. "I came to apologize," he said to the room. "When we first met, I dismissed humans as weak. I was wrong. I've learned more from you in these months than in decades of warfare." "What did you learn?" Nayang asked from her medical bed. "That strength isn't about size or power. It's about will, determination, refusal to accept defeat. These are human traits, and now, thanks to you, they're coalition traits too." Jin joined the meeting. "General, what happens now?" "Now we spread the word," said. "Human tactical doctrine will be taught at every coalition military academy. Human officers will train forces across the galaxy, and human combat units will be the most requested allies in any operation." He paused, his crystal face somehow showing respect. "You've changed warfare, Colonel. You've shown the galaxy that the fiercest warriors don't come from the strongest species. They come from the species that refuses to quit." Days later, a new alien species was joining the coalition. Their delegation arrived at headquarters. They had heard about the war with the— "Tell us about your forces," the alien ambassador said. "We want to know who will be fighting alongside." General pulled up files on the different species, many others. "And the humans?" the ambassador asked. "We've heard stories. They say humans are small and fragile, yet they won the war. How?" Looked at Ware and his officers stood. They were still recovering from their injuries. They looked tired and worn, not impressive by any physical standard, but had learned to see beyond appearances. "The humans," began, "come from a planet called Earth. The rest of the galaxy calls it everything there tried to kill them. Gravity, predators, weather, disease. For millions of years, Earth broke them down and built them back stronger." "So they're tough?" the ambassador asked. "More than tough," said. "They're unstoppable. They can run for days, fight for hours, survive injuries that would kill other species, and most importantly," he paused for effect, "they don't know when to quit. When surrounded, they fight harder. When wounded, they refuse to fall. When facing impossible odds, they find a way to win." The ambassador looked nervous. "Are they dangerous?" Smiled, something he had learned from watching humans. "Very, but only to their enemies. If you're their friend, there's no one more loyal. If you're their enemy—" He left the sentence unfinished. On Earth, in military academies and training centers, instructors told new recruits about Ghost Battalion, about the swamp crossing, about the fortress assault, about the battle where humanity showed the galaxy what they were capable of. The stories became legend. And across the galaxy, when alien soldiers prepared for dangerous missions, they had a new saying: "Never underestimate the species from the— they don't know how to quit." In the medical bay, was finally cleared for duty. His wounds had healed. Ghost Battalion was ready for their next mission. Wu handed him a data pad. "New orders, Captain. 3 different species requesting human advisors. 5 coalition worlds want Ghost Battalion to train their forces. The Council wants us to establish a human combat academy." Looked at his team, fully recovered and ready. Sora cleaning her rifle with careful precision. Ho sketching new explosive configurations. Nayang organizing medical supplies, all of them bearing scars from the war, all of them ready to go again. "What do you think?" he asked them. "Ready to teach the galaxy how humans fight?" Grinned, "Someone has to show them how to be stubborn." Soran nodded, and how to make impossible shots. Ho added, and how to blow things up creatively. Young smiled, and how to keep fighting no matter what. Wu finished, and how to never ever quit. Looked at his soldiers, his friends, his family. They were from Earth, a planet that tried to kill them every day. They were small by galactic standards, fragile by some measures. But they had shown the galaxy something new, something powerful, something that couldn't be measured by size or strength. They had shown the galaxy what it meant to be human. And the galaxy would never forget. Far away on a coalition training planet, instructors from dozens of species learned human tactics. They studied Earth's history. They trained with human soldiers. They learned to think like humans. And when they returned to their home worlds, they brought that knowledge with them. The humans had changed everything. Not through superior technology, not through overwhelming numbers, not through physical dominance, but through sheer, stubborn, unbreakable human spirit. Ghost Battalion walked out of the medical bay together. They had new missions waiting, new challenges to face, new impossible tasks to accomplish. They were ready, because they were human. And humans never quit.